What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 58 of the FlipScreen Games podcast. And I'm going to say it's a very special episode because we're recording it way late because guess what? It's TGS week, everybody. Tokyo Game Show 2022 has popped off in a big way, and there are a ton of announcements. In fact, so many announcements, we're not even going to get to them all today, but we're going to do our very, very, very best. So welcome to the weekly video game podcast where two best buds from different nations come together to discuss the Tokyo Game Show 2022. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Steve. Are you ready to jump in to some Japanese-centric announcements today?
Ooh. I don't know. And also Disney, because you've roped them in, even though they're not really TGS, but you want to talk about it, so that's fine.
Well, that's the thing. We delayed the show so long. I got to talk about it somewhere.
Yeah. It's crazy, because, we had this plus a Nintendo Direct all in the same week.
Plus
the
a State of Play.
Was on the same day as the Nintendo Direct. the State of Play was kind of getting out ahead of the curve. It was a day before the TGS press days kicked off, so I kind of feel like they were there. They wanted to get their they wanted to steal some of the Like a Dragon announcements.
Here's what I'm calling it, Steve. People have been affectionately calling Jeff Keighley's Summer Game Fest G3, right? I feel like this is G3.5 Electric Boogaloo. I feel like that's what we're at. This is like the second.
Can we call
E3.
it T3 instead, so it feels like a Terminator movie?
I like, and it's Tokyo T3.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in, Steve. You've sold me. So we're talking all about T3, the Terminator today. But before we get into that, because boy, like I said, we got a lot to chat about. Let me remind you that this episode of the FlipScreen Games podcast is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of September. They are, of course, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Verlet. I'm going to try that one again. Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Asobi, Mary Berry, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/FlipScreenGames. Y'all are the realest of the real, and we appreciate you helping us keep these mics on here, on this and our sister shows. Speaking of which, if you want to go and show your support just like they did, if you want to get your name read on the air, if you want to get the show early when we do it on our normal schedule and not in response to events, and if you want to get our Patreon exclusive podcast, One More Thing, you can get all that and more by heading over to our Patreon and supporting us however you can. But if you don't have any money to toss our way, no big deal. You head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you will find links on all the places you can get involved that won't cost you a pretty penny. Like our Discord, you can write into our email address, questions@flipscreen.games if you want to get your thoughts right on the air. Bunch of other good stuff. Go check it out. Wherever we're making content, including our Twitch channel and our second YouTube channel, you'll find links to them over there. So I hope, however you choose to get involved, you go do it, and we thank you for joining us for this week's show. All right, Steven, let's kick things off. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to start with the Disney Marvel stuff because it's the oldest stuff, and we'll just get it out of the way. How's that sound?
Okay. That sounds good because, I have very little to say about it because I did not watch that event.
Oh, no. Oh, my God. Hold on. I just destroyed the screen. What have I done? Oh, boy. Hold on. Oh, boy. Okay. I think we're back. Sorry about that. So it's all right. There wasn't too much to talk about here. It being a Disney Marvel event, right? Like there's a bit of kind of there's a couple of the bigger announcements, and then most of it was like your more like kind of mobile game kind of side fare. I think I
don't know, some of their mobile games. Like, have you seen that fucking Disney Dreamlight Daylight, whatever it's called? The Disney Animal Crossing that's out in early access that everyone's obsessed with.
Yes, I did see that. That's cool if that's your bag. Not exactly something that I'm going out of my way for, but could definitely see the appeal of it for the right crowd. The thing that I'm excited about is a couple weeks ago there was rumors going around that there was a Black Panther game in development. I'm not sure if this is what we heard rumblings about or what, but we got the announcement of a Untitled Black Panther and Captain America game, which is getting worked on by Skydance New Media, which is, of course, Amy Hennig's team. You might know Amy as, one of the architects of Uncharted back in the day. She had that infamous Star Wars Project Ragtag, that got canceled. This is her new studio. We know that she had revived that. We had known she was working on a project with Marvel. This was our first proper look at it. We got a CGI trailer that, kind of like sets the stage and the tone. Reading a little bit about it, the confirmation is that this takes place during World War II. Part of it takes place in Paris. There are 4 playable characters. You play as Captain America, obviously. And then you play as anyone who's familiar with the MCU iteration or like the modern iteration of Black Panther, right? Of course, he is T'Challa. And you're going to be playing as his grandfather, who was the Black Panther at the time. And then there are 2 additional playable characters who are kind of their like supporting players, where one of them is a Wakandan spy whose name is Nanali, and then there is a U.S. soldier named Gabriel Jones, who's a member of the Howling Commandos, which was like another Marvel comic at the time, but they kind of got co-opted to be like Captain America's boys during World War II. So you'll have like 4 different play styles. Definitely it being an Amy Hennig joint, right? You can assume that it's going to be story driven, action adventure type thing. This is something that like I'm super excited by the idea of, right? Obviously it being a CGI trailer, it doesn't even have a name yet. You got to imagine this is one of those recruitment trailers, right? Where like this was put out to be like, come work on this game, but if it actually comes to fruition, unlike the last Amy Hennig joint that I was very excited about, this is like right up my alley, I love the idea of, more, I think there's a lot of untapped juice for like when it comes to superhero games, in general, but like the idea of like kind of doing something that's like a period piece or doing something that's like not set in the modern day and isn't like an open world, like, Spider-Man style swinging around New York, right? Like those are all things that are definitely appealing to me. And I can definitely see how, that kind of game, like in the, quote unquote, in the style of Uncharted, that sounds really appealing to me. So I hope it comes together.
Yeah, I'm like I said to you off mic, I struggle to get excited about CG trailers, especially when it's not a franchise or something I'm particularly excited about. Like, I can get excited about maybe a logo if it's a game I'm really hyped for because I liked the last game or something, but I really struggle when it's something I don't have a connection with. Obviously, you do with Marvel and
Right.
Black Panther and Captain America. I don't, so it did nothing for me. I'm more excited about the Star Wars project that they've already announced that they're working on.
Which is
'Cause I
like a
love,
revival of Project Ragtag,
yeah.
allegedly.
So hopefully these games do come to fruition and it doesn't just end up on the cutting room floor. I do think this is probably 2025, maybe
Yeah.
2024 at the earliest. We got a long time before we see anything.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it doesn't even have like a name revealed or anything like that, to me very much feels like this exists for the sake of recruitment, right? To be like, this game is a thing that you could come be working on right now, so don't you want to do that? And, we've seen a lot of this kind of announcement or trailer or whatever recently, and we know that that's a big part of it, right? Is that like studios are hurting for talent.
Yeah, like the pre-announcement of like the new IP from Blizzard, and we have no idea what it is. It's just
Right.
we're working on a new IP. Do you want to come work at Blizzard on this new
Everyone
thing?
quit, please come. But for me, this is one where, like, obviously, like you said, I have the IP connection, but also there is a pedigree there that I am, Amy Hennig is great, right? Like, I love Uncharted and the work that she did on it, and before that, obviously, she worked on like Wild Arms, and she's co-wrote a lot of games that are known for having really great scripts. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of promise here. Whether or not it comes together that's part of the fun, isn't it? Speaking of a game that seems to be coming together, Marvel Midnight Sun, or Suns, excuse me. We got another update on that one. When we got a little bit more of a deeper dive on it, and this is great because it had an indefinite delay earlier this year where they just kind of were like, it's delayed, and they weren't
Yeah.
concrete about when it would be coming. So everybody was kind of assuming like, oh, that means it's probably next year, right? Like. And I believe the original release date was just like in November. So it's only getting pushed back a couple weeks. It's coming out on December 2nd now for current gen consoles and PC. Switch version is apparently in development, right? We knew that was something that was announced, but they've given no update on that, which seems to be a troubling trend as of late, to be like, yes, this is the release date for the game. It's coming to Switch eventually. Maybe. We'll see.
I wonder if it's because there's some dev kits for another Switch out in the wild.
Maybe.
And they're targeting that, and so we'll come to Switch at some point, but
I don't know, dude. I'm not drinking that Kool-Aid, because you and everybody else on the internet this week, this Direct was mid. They didn't announce a new Switch. They didn't tell me they were going to give me blood. I don't know, like who knows with you people, right? Everybody just want the sun and the stars.
We just wanted an announcement. We just wanted some announcements that were, a little more exciting than what we got. But we spoke about that.
Yeah, then multiple multiple entries in new IP or whatever. It's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, because a remake of a Wii game and a logo trailer.
Oh yeah,
it's really exciting.
Yeah, you're right. No, yeah, you're right. Yeah. I don't know why we even watch these fucking presentations. That's all they ever are. So then they also announced that there's going to be some prequel shorts that are coming out on October 31st. There's going to be 5 of them that are going to provide backstory on the formation of the young core of the Midnight Suns. So I don't know exactly what that means.
Midnight Suns like an actual Marvel thing? Like
no. That's like a thing that they're like trying to make.
So they made that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like these are like the Avengers, like another group.
Yeah.
Called the Midnight Suns.
But that's this. I guess this universe is like, no, like we're the Midnight Suns,
Okay.
Yeah, it's. I mean, This is another one I'm really excited for, right? Like, obviously, again, I'm a Marvel fan. I like tactical RPGs.
You an XCOM fan? You played any of those?
I've played a bit of XCOM. It was XCOM 2, I think, was the one that when it came to consoles, my friend who was living with me at the time and I played it a bit together. He played it all the way through, but I enjoyed it quite a bit. I like like Mario Rabbids, like that's a similar XCOM style game, right?
Yeah,
so
it's very much XCOM. Yeah.
I'm very interested in this, and I also just like I think this speaks to the same thing I said about like the whole like, oh, like it's a period piece, it's this, it's that. Like I like that it's a unique application of the IP, because I think that's like part of the fun of I mean, both the Marvel and DC superhero universes, right? Is that like they're universes that are all encompassing, right? Like there's superheroes, there's magic, there's demons, there's gods, there's whatever, right? Like if this wants to do like a kind of it's like obviously a very like 80s hair metal influence type like mythology, right? Where everybody's in this like crazy armor and there's all this hellfire and demons, and like that's something that like Spider-Man can go and fuck with that. The X-Men can go and fuck with that, right? Like that's all par for the course. So it is fun to see that like because superhero saturation, like there's been so much superhero media over the last like 12 years or whatever, even I guess 14 if you want to like count 2008 on. It's nice to see that part of that saturation is like not just like what if more, right? It's more like, okay, like we've been doing this for a while, let's start doing some of the weird shit, right? Like, and that's the stuff I'm excited about, right? As like a long-term fan of comic stuff.
Feels like this is sort of tying it in more to even like fantasy. It's not even just like what I would consider superheroes, which is I guess they got special powers.
It's like science, like superheroes are generally more science fiction than fantasy. But that's the thing, right? Is like there's a lot of fantasy in that, right? Like Thor is a fucking god who lives in a magical kingdom, right? He has a magic hammer, right? Like like those are all things that like they certainly it's not out of place, but it's not the most common interpretation, that's for sure.
Yeah. Won't be the first time. Well, it won't be the last time we talk about Thor today either, I'm sure.
That's true. So then last two just minor announcements I wanted to touch on from this one. One is Tron Identity is a new visual novel that's coming from Mike Bithell Games. You'd know him from like Thomas Was Alone. He's done like a lot of. He's like a prominent indie developer, right? He did Tacoma was another one that was his. You've heard of some of his games even if you've never played them. And I think this is just interesting. Not much has been talked about. It's coming to PC and consoles next year. There's a detective who is like trying to solve a crime. Standard fare, whatever, right? But what I think is cool about this is it speaks to not just the Marvel side of things, right, with Marvel games, and we've seen them expanding a lot over the last couple of years of like giving the Spider-Man IP to Insomniac and the Wolverine IP to Insomniac, but then also like the Guardians of the Galaxy game over with Squeenix and and like outsourcing the Marvel IP to different teams like Firaxis and whoever to make games that are what the game they want to make with a Marvel IP, right? And like matching exciting IP with exciting talent. And it seems like...
When do you think we're going to get a Marvel Battle Royale? I feel like I would really trust that with the Apex Legends.
I don't think it'll happen at this point because they've put a bunch of the Marvel characters in Fortnite, and I feel like they're probably just like, we're covered.
Yeah, that's fair.
The Fortnite engagement, that was one of the most popular ones, right? It was like, you got Spider-Man and you can swing around now and all that stuff. And like, all right, I feel like you checked that box, but... Never say never, right? But it's like, I don't know. I feel like Battle Royale as a genre is kind of waning. And not that, like...
You think so?
I do. I not to say that there's not interest in it, but I feel like it's not... In the same way that I think, like, Hero Shooter was, like, a moment, and then it was kind of like, all right, like, that's over now. Now we're all in... Now Battle Royale is the thing that everyone's paying attention to. I think Battle Royale
What's next, then?
That's a great question. I don't think we'll know until somebody cracks the nut.
I feel like it's still pretty ripe. They're still.
And I don't think it's going away. I just think it's not the new hotness anymore, right? It's been like
definitely not.
It's been one of the dominant forms of video games for like 5 years. Like I think we're ready for something new, and I think you see less and less new Battle Royale games coming out because I think people have realized that it's like you can't compete with Fortnite. So it's like, why bother?
Unless you're Epic and then you make Fall Guys, which competes with Fortnite.
And Rumbleverse, which also competes with Fortnite. But again, now it's kind of like, well, that's Epic's thing, right? Like, they've got it on lock. Like, do you really want to compete with one of the biggest
feel like
companies
Apex
in the world?
and Warzone really made some inroads.
Yeah, and they're great. They're great alternatives. But even so, right? Like, do you think you can come out and be the fourth one or the fifth one now?
Yeah, right? I think you can, but because it doesn't have to be the same style of gameplay. They don't have to be. It doesn't have to be Spider-Man running around with a gun. It can be something fresh and something new. I think there's room for a big arena with lots of superheroes, maybe team based. I don't know. I feel like there's something that can be done there.
I think you're right. I think it's more a matter of like who does that, right? Like, is it too late for that? I don't know. But we'll see. And then the last thing I just wanted to talk about was they're bringing back the fucking 90s platformer of the Gargoyles game. Which if you are a Disney Afternoon kid like I was, Gargoyles fucking rules, and they should bring back Gargoyles, all right? We're reviving all kinds of dumbass old IPs. Hashtag bring back Gargoyles. That's all I wanted to say, all right? So let's jump into TGS. Oh, wait, no, sorry. We got the state of play. I got so excited about Gargoyles.
Yep, we do. We spent 20 minutes on Disney.
So excited about Gargoyles. All right, so state of play, I think overall, pretty solid showing, right? I think depending on what your taste is, right, I could see you walking away and being like, it's kind of mid. But some good stuff. We got trailer for Tekken 8.
You wouldn't say it was S tier?
No, because,
I'm just fucking with you.
I know you are, but I'm annoyed because everyone on the internet is a fucking spoiled brat. All right, I'm done. All right, I'm done.
I think if you're into God of War and you were like really hyped and excited for it, this was probably up there as an A tier. For me, I'd probably say it was like a solid B. I thought it was a good presentation.
I think A is a little generous. I think like I am really excited for God of War, but I didn't need to see more of it. It's out in like fucking 4 weeks. That's my take. I think it's a solid
controller.
B. It was a fine presentation. As far as state of plays go, if you were gonna say it was an A for a state of play, maybe I'd give you that because they're mostly shit. But like they're
Wasn't Wolverine like announced in a state of play, or was that
that was a PlayStation showcase, which are almost
when are we getting
always
one of
fire.
those?
Those are great. And I like the state of play, but a lot of times they're mid, right? It's like they're focused on like one game and it's like it's 45 minutes of Horizon. I'm into that.
Yeah.
Or it's like here's a bunch of stuff. I don't know. Final Fantasy VII. You're like, okay, I like that. And then that set the tone, and then it feels like they haven't had many that have reached that level for me. But we got the announcement of Tekken 8. We got a new trailer for that. Looking good. Obviously, we're not the biggest fighting game fans, but Tekken is obviously, a very storied franchise, right? And it looks good. It's definitely got a nice look to it. I really fucked with Tekken back in the day, so even though I don't really play it anymore, like it does kind of get a pop from me now and then. There's a lot of those characters I do like a lot.
Is the one with the lion head back? Is he back?
He's got to be. You got to have King. Come on.
He's got to be there, yeah.
And then Armored King, even better. He's got like metal on him. So cool.
Who was the one that did the break dancing? I liked Eddie.
Eddie.
Eddie as well.
Yes, Eddie rules, and he did capoeira.
He was like always moving, couldn't stand still
always,
for a second.
Oh my god, he was great. And there was like the version of him where he had the picked out afro and he had the pick in, and I was like, he would like do the kick, and the afro would like touch the ground. It's like, oh, it's so dope. But I mean, if you're a fighting game fan, obviously Tekken 8 getting announced, big news. We got a pretty big focus on PSVR 2. We got to look at a decent number of games. One of them that caught my eye was Star Wars Tales from Galaxy's Edge, which looks really cool. I've heard a bit about this from some like previews from folks. And
this is already out. This is a port from MetaQuest.
Right,
so
but it's coming to VR too.
Yeah.
And just from what I've heard about it, it sounds really cool. Like the framing device is that like you go to a cantina and like you talk with this bartender, and then he tells different stories within the universe of Star Wars, and then you play through the story as he's like, narrating it or whatever.
Yeah, because it was episodic. It still is on MetaQuest. You have to buy each individual episode. This is going to be coming as a whole package, an enhanced edition. So it obviously is a massive step up in terms of graphics versus the MetaQuest, which is like a standalone unit. So it's nice to see. I'm glad more people will get to experience it because they're meant to be really great games. Same deal with the other game that they announced, which was Demio. I had such a good time playing Demio with friends. It's really, really cool concept. It's like a tabletop game, but you're like moving these characters around, rolling dice, playing cards. It reminds me of the board game Hero Quest or Gloomhaven, but like a digital version of it. It's a really cool way of playing it. But again, this is another old game that's on other platforms, and I think they're going to need to do a lot more, especially considering the other news we got around PSVR this week, which was a bit of a disappointment to a lot of people.
Yeah, so around that kind of conversation around PSVR 2, right, there's been a lot of hands-on reviews from outlets and people talking about these games as well as a couple others like Call of the Mountain, which is reviewing really positively.
Seems to be great, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to be like really good. But we got a confirmation that it's seemingly anyway that PSVR 2 will not feature backwards compatibility with PSVR, which I think is interesting because it's, I think, surprising in one sense and not at all surprising in another, right? Because it's like you would think that Sony would want to have some level of continuity there, right? They went through the trouble of making that adapter that allowed you to hook up your original headset to the PS5. And it kind of seemed like they were trying to keep some sort of like seamlessness between those two platforms. So seeing that was a little bit surprising, but then you think a little bit about it and it's like, not to say that it's a good choice, but I think it makes more sense when you contextualize it through like, okay, so that means that they need to continue to support the Move controller.
I don't think it does. I really don't think it does mean that, because those controllers are different and they've got a different button configuration, but I still think the majority of games would function absolutely fine with the I can't remember the name of the new controller. The PSVR 2 controller. I really do
not
think
seamlessly
that.
though.
And a ton of those controllers, a ton of those games worked with just a DualShock. Like they were all the Move controllers were always an optional device. So why can't I just play them
Not always.
with a DualSense?
There are many games that you need the Move controller.
But the ones where I don't, right? Because I can understand maybe you don't want to support the Move controller, but why can't I just have that? And maybe if I need to hook up the iToy camera or whatever it's called, the PS4 camera. If I need to do that, then fine, let me do that. But I feel like they could have done something at a system level to like mimic it and fake it, right? Because if I upgrade on PC from one headset to another, the controllers might be a little bit different. I feel like they could have done something. And this hasn't been confirmed. Sony's not come out and done anything. It was in the official PlayStation podcast that they spoke about it, but I don't think they've come out and done an announcement since. But if it's true, it's really disappointing. It means all of the PSVR games are going to either need an update or you're going to need to buy them again for PSVR 2 if a PSVR 2 version comes out.
Right.
We don't know what their strategy is around it, but considering all the positivity with how great PSVR 2 seemed to be, how light it was, how much of a leap forward it is.
It's a black mark on the record.
It's like, yet again, it's another bad choice or a bad decision by PlayStation that it gives them more bad press, and I don't understand. It seems to be they seem to be on an absolute combo trail of these lately.
I think this is one though that I think this makes a lot more sense. Right, again, I'm not defending it. I don't think it's a good choice, and I think it's probably fair to say that it's anti-consumer. But the difference between the original headset and this headset is monstrous, right? And the idea that they're we could go through the effort to support these old games, but how many people are gonna play them versus how much does it cost for us to create a software level thing that just does all this on on the hardware side. And again,
it feels like a lot of people have made investments into those games. So I'm looking up some of the games, and Beat Saber, if you bought that, I presume that's going to get ported.
That'll get a port.
It's the most popular one. But is Capcom going to go through and readjust Resident Evil 7?
Probably
Maybe.
not.
Super Hot, probably not. Tetris Effect, I doubt they'll go back to that. Hitman 3,
Tetris Effect, I bet will get re-released.
Tetris Effect, yeah, maybe. I don't think Hitman 3 will. The Gran Turismo Sport, I don't think will.
But that's the thing, right? Is I think when you think about it again for a second, it makes sense in the context of how Sony has dealt with retro stuff, right? Where it's I think that by and large there is a much smaller community of people who actually want to go back and play old games than there is people who want to have the option to go back and play old games. And
but some of these games are slam dunks. I was considering getting a PSVR 2 because I really want to experience Hitman 3 in VR, and I don't have a big PC. Otherwise, I would hook up my Quest to the PC in order to play it. But a PSVR 2, it's a unit. I just plug it in. There's none of that faff that comes with PC setup and configuration and all of that stuff. I just plug it in and it works, right? The fact that I'm probably not going to be able to experience at least two of the games that I was excited about playing, which is Resident Evil 7. I know Resident Evil Village is getting a VR version, but the fact that 7 won't be...
Yeah, but that's the point, right? Is I think that's the whole thing is how many people like you say that you want to play those games, but are you actually going to buy a PSVR 2 headset and be let me go back and play this now 6-year-old VR game that looks like shit compared to what's new, or are you going to play the new thing, right? And maybe you would, but the vast majority of people are not going to go back and play Resident Evil 7. They're going to play Village, right? The vast majority of people...
After you've played Village, you probably want to go play Resident Evil 7. Or if you've not played 7, you want to play that first.
Yeah, and again, I agree with you as a person, but I think that for them, right? It's okay, but how long is this a talking point before you just get over it and move on, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
and I'm sure that's their mentality. And I also think their mentality is, well, if you want to play PSVR 1 games, you had a PSVR headset, didn't you? Why don't you keep it? It works on PS5. We went through the trouble of releasing an adapter. Why can't you just play it on the old hardware, right? Like, if you're such a purist and you want to play these old games, you're not keeping old hardware.
I really do think that's a crappy argument. If that's the way
I agree.
That's the same. It's the same argument Nintendo uses. Where it's like, well, play it on the old hardware.
Yeah, but
they had an article on their website which was about to flea markets and like garage sales.
Yeah, but think about that, right? That is Nintendo's response. And how has it affected them monetarily? Guess what? It hasn't.
No, you're right. I don't know. It feels like
it feels bad.
When people see the price on this and it's $500+ on top of the fact that it doesn't work with any of my past games, and at launch we probably got like 4 titles. It's like, is that really a good reason to buy this at this point? Because they've not announced PC compatibility. I don't think that's actually going to happen. It was one of my predictions, but I just don't think that's coming.
No, they want to own. They want to own VR on consoles, hurdle. Right?
Yeah,
and they do. They do own it. Nobody else is doing it. So I think they're confident enough that that's their value prop. Is like, we're an easier inroad, but we still have high fidelity.
Yeah, I wonder how long that confidence takes them, how far that confidence takes them, because when you have between the PS5, which just had a price hike, plus that unit, which is going to be $500 at least, that's a $1,000 setup. I feel like you could get a similar setup on PC with like a Quest and a... No. I think you could with a Quest and with like a decent graphics card, like a 1080 Super, something like that. I feel like you can get a similar setup for like $1,000.
I don't think you can. You can't build a decent gaming PC for under $1,000, really.
I think you can.
Well... I think you're crazy if you think that you can get. Yeah, I mean that's true, but you think that you can build a comparable VR setup for $1,000?
No, nowhere near comparable. Absolutely nowhere.
But
near.
that's the
VR2.
But that's the argument.
Shines everything. It's like even a next level above the index. But the screens on that is 2 4K.
But that's the argument, right? Is like, and I think that does take them a fair amount, right? Where it's like, okay, like I can't play because again, right? If you're a VR enthusiast, right? Is this your first headset? No. Right? So what? Did you throw everyone up?
It's going to be a lot of people's first headset.
But do they care? Do they care about playing 6-year-old games? Probably not. Like, are they picking up PSVR 2 to be like, let me play Job Simulator, let me play?
No, maybe not. But,
I think to your point,
I think a lot of people though are at the moment redeeming those PSVR games on PlayStation Plus every month and thinking, I'm going to bag all of these and bank them, and I'm not going to be able to play any of them.
But that's not the kind of thing that I don't think. I'm not going to sit here and say nobody, right? Because I remember Sobi in our Discord was saying like he has friends and he was thinking about getting PSVR 2, but now he doesn't want to because it's not backwards compatible, right? But like, I don't think that represents a large number of people. I really don't. And that's not to say that you don't matter. That's not to discount your feelings. It's to say that business decision wise, they've decided that the number of people who are going to be mad about this and stay mad about this is statistically insignificant. And I think that that's probably right, because I think if you're
right. And that's the same deal with the PS5 price hike, and it always comes down to a business decision, and it always feels shitty.
Well, they're a business, you know. It's like, of course it feels shitty. Yeah, like that's what they're doing, you know. It's like, and that's not to defend them. It's just to explain, right? Like, it is what it is. But the last thing I want to say on this is, I think to your point, right? Because we keep darting away, but you were saying the thing about this might be a lot of people's first VR headset, right? That person, you're right. That the big VR games that have come to PSVR will almost certainly get a port to PSVR 2, right? Maybe not some of the exclusives, like maybe like your Iron Man VRs and Arkhams and those kind of things don't make the jump, fine. But like Beat Saber is going to get a fucking PSVR 2 version. There's no way you're not going to play Beat Saber there. It's the most popular game.
I mean, I don't know, because that's owned by Meta. So whether they decide to restrict that to their own platform at that point is up to them.
So, okay, that notwithstanding, I can't think of what the next most popular VR game is. But whatever the fucking hot, you know, super hot, whatever other things that you've heard of that you're like, I want to try that in VR. I'm sure it's going to get a port. And if you've never owned a headset before, you don't give a fuck that it's not backwards compatible because you're buying the game for the first time anyway. You know?
Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I feel like I'll type VR into the PlayStation Store and I'll be like, oh, I can play Resident Evil 7. No, actually, I can't. Oh, I can play Hitman 3. No, actually, I can't. And it like I do think there's going to be a level of disappointment, and I actually think we're probably going to see some clarification and maybe some maybe there's not even anything to U-turn, because I think it could be that some games are compatible.
That's
some
an
games
interesting
are getting a free update.
That's an interesting question too. Is it possible that we see them backpedal the way that they did with the stores, where they were like, "Oh, okay, you want this? We'll support it," right? Because like you said, I'm sure it's literally possible to program support for these old control schemes or whatever, right? Maybe they're not there at launch. Maybe they bring it later. Who knows? We don't even know when it's coming out. So, a lot of question marks there.
It's coming out isn't it coming out February? They announced the announced date on Twitter or something.
Did they? Oh my god, I missed that. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, they just like randomly announced it one day. It was like the release date is this.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'm looking at
So it's coming out. It's not coming out this year. They announced that it's coming out at some point.
They said early 2023.
Yeah, there you go. So it's coming out early 2023. But prior to that, we had no idea. It could have been this year, it could have been whenever. But yeah, it's coming out.
My point there is, though, early 2023 could be the end of Q1, which would be
It could be the end of Q2. I feel like they
right,
could be pushing
sure.
that up to May.
Right, that could be part 1 of the year. So that's months away, right? That's enough time for them, I think, that if like they feel like this is a thing they really need to do to like save face, like maybe they can create plans for it, but I don't know. I think ultimately, as much as I don't agree with it, I think that Sony is largely correct about retro, right? Is that like, I think people really want the option to play old games, but they spend a lot less time actually doing it than they claim, right?
Maybe I don't consider last generation a retro. I feel like that's the same as me wanting to play The Last of Us Part 2 on my PS5. Because I bought a brand new PSVR game. There's still PSVR 1 games coming out now. There was some hot new ones that came out earlier
like Moss 2 and stuff like that, for sure. And I agree with that to an extent, but I also feel like with VR it's a little interesting because I think there are a lot of like Gen 1 VR games that are like, by today's standards, are really unimpressive. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you would never ever
would
play
agree
them
with that.
for any reason other than like historic, like the
Look how far we've come.
yeah,
What it
right.
was,
Like you
3 years ago.
you wouldn't do it for any reason other than like the sociological exercise of comparing them, right? Whereas like there are some old Gen 1 VR games that are gems that are worth keeping around that are this or that. And Sony's, I think, saying that's like, well, then the developer can port it, right? And take advantage of the new technology and make it run better and make it look better and whatever, right? I not say that that's right, but I think that's...
I personally prefer Microsoft's approach, which is we take that away from the developer, we take that work away from the developer because they're busy working on new games, and here is Assassin's Creed Odyssey running at 4K 60. It was a last gen game, and it gets a free update.
I don't think it's fair to compare traditional games one-to-one with VR because VR games are made with hardware in mind, and like the resolution of PSVR 1 games are like a fraction of what's capable on PSVR 2.
Yes.
It's not one-to-one like that, and I don't necessarily... I don't know enough about the technology to say that, like, oh, Sony should have just figured this out, right? Like, it might have been prohibitively expensive, and we don't have enough insight to
quite
be
possibly. I don't think it is, though.
And I think you're probably right.
I think you could have just run the games at their original resolution and had it scale up, because they're just screens inside of those.
But what if they look like shit then? It's like...
but then they're not going to look any shitter than they did on PSVR 1.
But do you want those shitty old games representing what PSVR 2 looks like?
That's like saying, do you want these shitty old games that are on PlayStation Plus now representing, like, do I want The Last of Us Part 2 running in like a backwards compatibility mode on PS5 to represent The Last of Us
I don't
Part
think
2?
It's the same, because VR is a niche technology, and if you're a new person and you're like, Resident Evil 7, I want to play that, and it looks like shit, you're going to be like, oh, VR sucks.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't think it's the same. Like, I really don't. I think the messaging is different, and I think people who are inundated in VR think about it that way, but like to the average consumer, like they want to see Horizon Call of the Mountain. They don't want to see Resident Evil 7 2016.
Yeah, I think for me it comes down to choice. Like cater for both if you can, and maybe we'll see an announcement or a clarification in the coming week, and we'll
I hope so. I really do, because like I don't know. Like I feel like VR is in such a weird place right now, and I would love to see like a consumer product come out that excites people and motivates steps forward, because I feel like VR kind of came out and it was like all this promise for very little actual innovation, and like it doesn't,
and such a high cost and high technical know-how point of entry.
And I don't think that's going away anytime soon, right? So PlayStation VR has that benefit of being one of the more easy things of just, you already own a PlayStation, plug it in, right? Like it's that simple. Yeah, I don't know. And there's like a lot of great new features with it. There's the whole like you can press a button and see all around you and stuff like that. Like, there's lots of cool bits that have come with it, but
those innovations have come to other headsets a long time ago. But the cool stuff with this one is it aligns it with what we've got with other headsets, but introduces awesome new stuff like eyesight tracking, haptics in the headset, foveated rendering. There's a lot of really cool innovations. Not to mention the fact that it's got two 4K OLED screens right in front of your eyes, which is gonna look phenomenal.
Yeah, right. And the fact that they are OLED is like that's a super unique value proposition. Like, I think generally, like, there's enough about PSVR 2 that sets it apart from the competition, and it's not, again, my understanding, what I was driving to when I was saying the thing about some of those features is, like, a lot of those are not new features, but they're iterative on old features that have you seen on other devices, and from what I've heard from, like, folks like Timur Hussein from, like, GameSpot, is that this is the best iteration of some of those features, like the whole ability to press a button and see what's around you. It used to be like this weird grid system, right? The PSVR 2, it's like a black and white camera, so you can actually fucking see what's happening, right? Like things like that, where it's like, yeah, they're not the first to do it, but at least in his opinion, it's the best to have done it. So I think those are things that, like, they're probably banking on the idea that, like, well, we have the most accessible but also high-powered option for you, right? Whereas, like, yeah, the MetaQuest is wireless, but it's limited in what it can do. It's certainly not as high fidelity. It couldn't present something like Call of the Mountain in the way that PSVR 2 can. So I think that's probably what they're...
That's for sure. You'd need a PC connected to it in order to achieve that. I'm interested to see what Valve has next. There's some rumors going around about their new all-in-one headset, so we'll see. And I love that there's competition again. It really feels like Sony getting back in the game is really going to push VR forward. So
I hope so.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I would love to be motivated. Like, I would love to feel the pull to pick up PSVR 2 or like a Quest or whatever, right? Because like I had the original PSVR. I was very, very into VR at first, and like I could not be more over it. So I would love to see some more quote unquote real games, less experiences and more games, right? And that's the thing that took me away from it, was like, do I really want to go through all this trouble to play this half-baked experience when I could just play a video game? That's what I really want, right? So I don't know. We'll see. I'm interested. I'm interested to see more. From what we've heard, there's a lot of good, a lot of bad between, the no backwards compatibility, but everything else sounds pretty promising. So we shall see, I guess. The next game we're going to talk about is a game we got to look at coming from Koei Tecmo called Rise of the Ronin. It's a new Team Ninja joint coming in 2024. This looks sick. This game looks sick, Steve.
Are you into Team Ninja games? Like I was when I saw Koei Tecmo, I was like, is this gonna be like a like, what do they call them? Is that like a Warriors game?
Oh, Muso?
Yeah.
So I have not played many Team Ninja games. I've dabbled. I certainly wouldn't call myself a big Team Ninja fan. But playing Ghost of Tsushima got me very like interested in like samurai in a way that I wasn't before. Like I had never really I've never been a big Kurosawa guy. Like I've never seen Seven Samurai or any of those movies. Like I've always, thought samurai imagery was cool, right? Like fucking the armor and katanas and like the whole Bushido code. Like that's all stuff that I think is interesting, and I've like have a half-assed American westernized understanding of it from like, you know, Japanese media or whatever. But playing Ghost, I was like, whoa, like this is a world and a setting and a vibe that is really resonating with me. And like looking at this game, being like more over the top and more like action movie-y, you know, was like, it's not quite what I got from that game, but like I feel like now that I'm in on that aesthetic, I'm like, that looks cool. Like the whole like there's like a great cut of like him, you know, like fighting with all these different weapons, and like there's like, you know, this plot. It's like in the 1820s, and it looks like it's the British coming and invading, and like he fucking takes a long rifle with a bayonet on it and like stabs a guy and shoots him. And like this, I was like, oh, it looks like a very cool, like high octane action game. And the idea of being
like a
like
cross between Ghost of Tsushima and like Doom, with some of like the finishes that he does. It's like, yeah, like you said, the one where he like hits him with the bayonet and then like bam, straight in. It's like crazy.
it's really
It feels
cool.
like we're in a bit of a trend though with this now. What was that other one? It was like what Destiny of
Wodo, or
yeah,
I totally
and it was
remember
like
that.
the one where it was like running on water. That's like
And
an Xbox exclusive.
that
And then
one,
there's Assassin's Creed, which is set in Japan, which we're not touching on.
That's true. Which might be the thing that finally brings me back to Assassin's Creed, if I'm honest. Because I like when they announced it, I was like, I don't know. And then they showed the image of
so many boxes though. It was like it's a smaller game and it's like in Japan. I'm like, yeah, okay.
And there's the shot, right, of like the assassin, and he's holding the katana out, and then the hidden blade comes out, and I was like, all right, that's pretty fucking cool. I'm not gonna lie to you, like that's pretty neat. The legend of Woe, I can't remember the name of it, and I don't want to keep saying it wrong. But that game, the one that you're talking, if you can look it up, where that one looked a little too fantastical to me, and like I'm still like, maybe I'll check it out. But like this felt a little more grounded in a way that I appreciated, and it has the historical angle, and like I love the idea of like
Fallen Destiny.
Wo Long, that was it. I also like the whole like I like the idea of playing through this period of history, right? Of the idea of like, you know, there's like this the remnants of this old culture, and then like there's this invading force coming in trying to colonize things. Like I just feel like there's so much ground for storytelling there that it could be really, really interesting and cool. And yeah, it's funny, the trend thing, I honestly think part of it is a response to Ghost of Tsushima. Because, like, I don't know if you remember this. When Ghost came out, it was so popular in Japan. And I remember that there was a bunch of devs from prominent Japanese studios. I don't remember who exactly said it, but I remember somebody was like, we should be embarrassed that this didn't come from a Japanese studio, that no Japanese studio has achieved this game prior to the folks at Sucker Punch, right? And like not with any like dismissal, but more just like, what the fuck? Like, why did this American studio make this amazing samurai game and no studio here has made this, right? Like, obviously, you would think that would be where, you know, you'd think Sucker Punch would be like inspired by someone else and do their own version of it, right? Not like set a standard for open world samurai action game, right?
Well, did you see one of Imran Khan's last pieces over at Fanbyte before Tencent fucked them all over? He did an interview with Masayoshi Yokoyama, which is the RGG studio chief, which we'll get into because it's one of the next games that was announced at PlayStation. And he said, we saw how well Ghost of Tsushima did and how it was about this very Japanese setting made by Americans. So that gave us confidence that Ishin could do well in America too, which is the only reason we're getting Like a Dragon Ishin is because of Ghost of Tsushima, which is
fucking
bananas
awesome
to me.
That's awesome. They got to be so happy with how much Yakuza has blown up the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. I would be.
I mean, it's great, honestly. Like, I love to see that. I love to see that, like, there are more Japanese, like, these, like, IP that have been like, oh, this is, like, this storied Japanese franchise, and then, like, now it's blowing up, right? Like, we had that with Monster Hunter a couple years ago. We had that with Persona a couple years ago. Yakuza feels like one of the most recent ones. You love to see that. And I love to see that, like, a game like Ghost, which is, like, from a Western studio, like, is blowing up in Japan, right? Like, more cross-cultural communication, please, because that just gives us more good games. So we did get a look at Like a Dragon Ishin. I think we can talk about that a little bit later because we are going to talk about the RGG Summit briefly, so we'll save that for now. We got a big look at God of War Ragnarok. We got another trailer. We got a look at the God of War Ragnarok controller that they're putting out. So I want to talk about that real quick because I remember when they announced it, Steve, you didn't like this controller.
No, I don't like the big blob on the front on the trackpad.
I think it's great. I love it. I thought when you said you were like, oh, it's just a logo, I thought you meant it was like the God of War logo.
I thought it was. To be fair, I thought it was the God of War logo on the front, but
it's the
God
two
of War
wolves
logo on the back.
It's the wolves on the pad. I think it's great. I love it.
As I said on, I think it was on stream. I really wish this was on their new controller, on their new Pro controller. I can't remember what they're calling it, DualSense Core or something.
Yeah, but then nobody could afford it.
The removable sticks. I don't agree with you that nobody could afford it, and because that controller is going to be like, I think it's $120, something like that.
So you want it to be $50 more, and you think no, but that's not a problem?
No, I don't think that's a problem considering they charge like extortionate amounts for their like special edition games that don't even have a disc in the box.
What does that have to do with anything? That's a totally different equation.
I really think that people want the Pro version of the controllers themed, like Microsoft did with the Halo Elite one. I really think that it's I just think it's such a cool thing to do, and I wish more companies would do it.
You confuse the hell out of me, man. You're like, not having PSVR 1 games on PSVR 2 is anti-consumer, but charging twice as much for a limited edition controller is pro-consumer.
Yeah, charge twice as much, but for the Pro version that he's charging that much for anyway. As someone who only ever uses one controller at once,
yeah, but then you're making it
between them. I want a Pro, like I want the fancy controller, but I want it to look like the game I'm interested in.
Yeah, but then you're punishing collectors. You're saying that if you want this special edition, the only way for you to get it is to buy our most expensive, high-end controller. There's no way people don't look at that and go, oh, so anti-consumer, Sony, nickel and diming us. Yeah, just make an unlimited number of SKUs so that when you've got these $130 limited edition God of War controllers rotting in a fucking warehouse somewhere.
I mean, they're taking pre-orders. I think there are probably no figures for how many to produce at some point.
I think that would be the way to do it. You want to mass produce the regular controller and take pre-orders for the Pro, and that's the only way to get the pre-order. I'm with you.
Do limited run controllers. I think that would be really nice.
I'm cool with that. That would be fine. I think if the only option was to give them that, you're fucking people real bad. But anyway, I know you didn't watch it.
Let me know in the comments or write in or send me a message on Discord or Twitter. Would you prefer a special edition controller of your favorite game to be the Elite version or the Pro version or whatever it is? Because I bet a bunch of people would.
I'd be interested to see. Because I think you'd be surprised on that one. But maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. We know that. But to speak on the actual trailer, this is one of those ones where I think it was a good trailer. I just didn't need to see it at this point.
Yeah, I remember that about a bunch of games that we were already sold on. It's just like, yeah, I can skip on that one.
Yeah, it's like I'm really excited for this game. I think God of War 2018 was a great game. I'm really looking forward to the follow-up. I've been looking forward to it for a while at this point.
Since 2018.
Yeah, right? So it's like I'm good, right? Like I don't need to see more of it, especially when it's so it's funny. I feel like the polar opposite to you and the folks who are like, I don't need to see a CGI trailer 3 years before the game. I'm way more interested in that than this game's out in 4 weeks. I don't need to fucking see another trailer. I'm in.
Would you give a shit if you hadn't played God of War 2018, though? I don't think you would. That's the difference. You want a CGI trailer when you've got a connection to the game or the IP, but when it's just like a trailer for like something I've never fucking heard of. Like, oh, it's a
Disagree.
Doom game and it turns out to be an MMO. Yeah, this sucks. I don't want this. Thank you.
Well, it depends. That's, I think, a different thing. But, like, to me, like, I think of, like, one of the best E3 presentations I ever saw was PlayStation's 2014, which was the one where they showed off Horizon for the first time with a CGI trailer. And they showed off God of War. They showed off with a CGI trailer. Again, existing IP, that one doesn't count. But still.
Have you heard the story about when they showed the CGI trailer of Killzone at the PS3 event? It was on that NoClip documentary for Horizon, and that trailer was not meant to be shown, and Guerrilla produced it to just pitch the game, and then they ended up having to make that game because they'd made it at Sony's request.
That's awesome.
And they didn't want to make that game.
Oh, wait. For Killzone?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. I thought you meant Horizon. I thought you said the opposite, where like they put out the Horizon trailer.
They showed off this Killzone trailer for like a next gen Killzone, and it was not meant to have been shown at the presentation, and they just like got it off a shared drive or something and
Whoops.
showed it.
Like, fuck. Are we gonna make another Killzone? Sorry to all you Killzone fans. I know when I talk about Killzone, I upset a lot of people.
Yeah, you do.
Can't say anything on this show. But yeah, God of War Ragnarok is one of my most anticipated games of the year. I'm very excited for it. I might pick up the controller, honestly. I like it. That nice, like, soft purple, too. I dig that.
You think it's purple? I thought it was a blue.
Is it?
I don't know.
I'm going to pull it up. Hold on. Because to me, no, I guess it is kind of blue. It's like a bluish purple. Blue. But it isn't, because the Ragnarok blue is like a light blue, and this is dark. Even if it is blue, it's a dark blue. I got
In
it up.
In any cases, it looks quite cool.
Oh, so now you like it? You come around on it?
I'm not going to buy it because I don't care about it.
Because it's not a pro controller?
Yeah, and also I don't really care about God of War because I've not played
you never played
one
it, yeah.
since PSP, so it's just like, maybe.
So are you going to play the original, or are you going to just keep telling me you're going to play it? What's
no,
up?
it's on my list of games to play.
Good. I can't wait that
when you finish Deathloop.
I can't wait until I'm talking about the sequel and you're like, "Oh, I started the original." It's pretty good.
Yeah.
4 years late.
That's probably what's gonna happen.
You had 4 years, Steve. 4 years to catch up.
Yeah.
Just play any game I want you to play with me, just one time. All right, so then the last bit that we got a conversation on was, or that we want to have a conversation, I should say, is PlayStation Stars. So this was that, I don't even know what to call it, a program, I guess, that they announced a bit ago, and it's like a digital collectibles thing. It is like 500% just the thing from Astrobot's Playroom.
It is, yeah. There's some of the same models, I swear. Like, here's a
They are.
PlayStation Mini. It's just like,
same.
Okay,
It's
cool.
exact same model. Yeah, and I don't understand what it is yet, really, and that's, I think, the thing that makes me feel weird.
They're like the it's a loyalty scheme, right? I think they're like the Valve thing that they have on Steam, where you
Those
get like
stupid
stickers
tokens.
and cards and like tokens and things, and you can trade them.
But
I think it's like that, but a 3D version.
to like what end, I guess, is my question, right? Because it's like that's fine, right? That on its face, do I totally understand the purpose of it? No, right? Whatever.
Do you give a shit about it? Probably not.
Maybe not. I don't know though, right? Because how does it work? Do I have like a virtual room where I can like organize things? Like, is it like the Splatoon locker where it's like it's an opportunity for like self-expression and you can unlock stuff and make a little shelf or something? And then when I come in,
too cool. It's probably not that.
So, but then it's like, so what do you do? Like, how do you earn them? Where do they go? What do you do with them once you have them? Like, I just...
So it says on the blog, they've got a blog that clarifies it.
Okay.
All PlayStation Stars members have opportunities to earn loyalty points. Points can be redeemed in a catalog that may include PSN wallet funds, select PlayStation Store products, and as an additional benefit, PlayStation Plus members are automatically enrolled in PlayStation Stars, and they will automatically earn points for purchases on PlayStation Store. So it's like the platinum coins you get on eShop, right? And then as part of PlayStation Stars, so one part of it is you get discounts, you can redeem these like loyalty points against actual games. And then
Okay.
also as a part of PlayStation Stars, we're unveiling a new type of reward called digital collectibles, which is what they've announced at the State of Play. Collectibles are as diverse as our portfolio of products. They're digital representations of things that PlayStation fans enjoy, including figurines of characters from games, other forms of entertainment, cherished devices, blah, blah, blah. There will always be a new collectible to earn, an ultra rare collectible to strive for, or something surprising to collect for fun. So it's just a loyalty scheme that you get points and then you can buy things. I don't know where they show up. I presume on your profile.
I think that's going to be the thing that makes a difference for me, because obviously the like ability to like earn rewards and everything, like that's all positive, right? Like that's only a good thing. But I do wonder, like, what does that mean for me, wanting to, I don't know, like, is there a way for me to interact with these things beyond that, I guess? Not that it necessarily
It seems like
matters.
they're NFTs, but with a different name. And you spend, rather than spending blockchain coins, you spend PlayStation loyalty points.
Yeah.
And to me, I see very little difference other than it's not on the blockchain. But if that's what you're into, if you're into collecting digital things, then this might be something for you. For me, I couldn't give a shit about it, and I'll spend my loyalty points on discounts.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. I liked collecting them in Astrobot. So like, if this is just kind of like a natural extension.
Yeah, but that
of
was
like,
there was like gameplay to it. Like I have to go around, I have to get the coins. There's like this cool like gacha machine. Like that was fun. I liked that. I just earning
yeah,
points because I bought something on the PlayStation Store and then going through a catalog. Just
yeah, but it's like, I don't know. Like I could see them attaching it to things like that, right? Like you achieve a thing in a game and you get this thing unlocked, right? Oh,
it's gonna tie in perfectly to PlayStation Home 2 when that launches for PSVR 2. And you like
maybe
show them off in your little
it's like
house.
that's the thing. Like that would be a cool, interesting application.
Yeah,
Of
it
it, I
would.
think and like I think how much this is bullshit or not depends on that, really. But we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. Yeah, I'm not gonna judge it too harshly before we learn more about it, because I don't know. It's like I think
No, that's fair, and I'm glad that they've caught up with like Nintendo. It would be nice for Xbox to have some kind of loyalty scheme as well. Like, I've still got like £5 of points on the eShop. I just always forget about it, and every single time I get a cartridge, like I forget that I need to click in and redeem the like 50 points and stuff.
Oh,
And
I
get some
redeem them
money off on
every
the
time.
eShop.
Like when I bought Splatoon, they were like, "Oh, if you buy it on launch week, you get double coins." I was like, "Thank you very much, baby. I'm halfway to a second game right now. Are you kidding me? I already had $5. I'm up to 15. Let's rock and roll."
Oh, that's awesome.
All right. So, overall, I think a solid showing from PlayStation for the state of play, especially as far as state of plays go. I think this was a better one for sure. Couple good bits. So let's jump into some of the TGS news proper. Like we teased before, RGG, the team behind Yakuza, aka Like a Dragon, had a big presentation. Steve, why don't you chat about this? Because unlike me, you have at least some level of familiarity with the Yakuza in that
You never played any of them?
never played any of them.
Oh, you should.
I'd like to play
definitely
Like a Dragon.
Dragon.
Like a Dragon
Yeah.
very much sounds like my
Which,
bag.
Like a Dragon, Pete, it's interesting you say that because the franchise has been renamed from Yakuza to Like a Dragon in line with the Japanese name. Apparently, RGG, the actual full term, translates to Like a Dragon, but when it came to the West, they renamed it to Yakuza to kind of tie into that like GTA, capitalize on that gangster stuff. It's being rebranded back to Like a Dragon, in part thanks, as we spoke about, to Ghost of Tsushima and the success of Yakuza Like a Dragon. And we obviously had the reveal of Like a Dragon Ishin, which is a PS3 and PS4 launch title. It came out on PS4. It's from 2014, but it was also a PS3 game. Crazy that that's finally coming to the West, and it's not even going to get an English dub. They're just releasing it as is, as a remaster, coming to PS5, coming to Xbox as well. I think it's also coming to PC, and just like going to have subtitles, which is really great. I'm excited for that one to arrive.
Yeah, that's cool.
The bigger announcement was Like a Dragon 8. And the fact that it's no longer called Yakuza. Like, I think there was a lot of confusion. It's like Dragon 8. How there's not been 8 of these? Like, what's going on? But yeah, it's Yakuza 8. It's been rebranded to Like Dragon 8. Kiryu's back. I think he left the Yakuza family at some point and somehow is back.
They couldn't have chosen a more confusing time to rebrand this IP.
Yes, especially after a spin-off called
like
Yakuza
you just made a spin-off that was a totally different kind of game. And then now you're like, yeah, all right. Because now it's like that game is technically Like a Dragon, right? Like that's what that game is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they're not going to backwards rebrand, so it's going to be Yakuza.
Yeah, of course.
7, and then it's going to be Like a Dragon 8, and it's like, oh, there's 7 other of these games?
It's just confusing as shit, right? Like it's like Resident Evil Biohazard. It's like, what are you fucking doing to me? Like,
to be honest, Resident Evil is such a shit name for that franchise, and Biohazard is also kind of a shit name considering it's not really related
Biohazard
to
is just
Umbrella.
a lame name. Like it's so like generic where it's like Resident Evil is cool, but it only made sense for that one game.
Yeah. After that it was like, this makes no sense.
There's fucking 10 other games in this franchise, none of which take place in a residence. Whatever.
Yeah, it was really weird. I'm gonna hand it over to one of our Patreon producers, Zaid. I'll put a link to the description to his video. He did a full sum up of the RGG Summit, which was really great. I highly recommend checking that out. He's got way more experience with this franchise. I've only actually played one Yakuza game, and I really want to get back to it. I had such a good time with it, and I started playing Judgment as well. I was streaming some of that earlier this year. So go check those streams out. They'll be going up on FlipScreen Live. But Judgment and Lost Judgment are coming to PC, which was a huge surprise to a lot of people because there was a conflict between Sega and the agency that represented the voice actors in the game. Do you remember about this, Pete? Did you ever hear about this?
No, I don't think I did.
So the word on the street was that they couldn't come to PC because there was like a conflict and like the voice actors agency didn't want it to come to PC unless they got like some additional funding or something. So they've obviously figured out that that conflict or that business decision or whatever, and they are coming to PC. In fact, they are out now. I believe they launched like it was like a shadow drop on Steam.
Very nice.
So you can go pick out like a. You can buy them separately, or you can buy them all as a combo with the DLC. There's the Kaito Files DLC that comes included with it. I think I might pick these up when they go on sale. I've got Judgment on Xbox, but I'd love to play that game on Steam Deck. I feel that would be such a good fit, running around and doing some detective work on my Steam Deck. It would be really great. And they're Steam Deck verified. As we spoke about on the Steam Deck podcast this week, they were at the Steam Deck booth, so go listen to that if you're interested.
Yeah, and speaking of which, if you want to hear all of our conversation about Valve and Steam Deck showing at Tokyo Game Show, we did a special on the Steam Deck podcast, our sister show, so go check that out. For all of the Steam-specific, or PC in general, I guess, news. But yeah, if you want to hear more about the RGG Summit, definitely go check out Zaid's video, which we'll link to down below, as he is certainly a much bigger Yakuza fan or a much bigger Like a Dragon fan, I should say, than either of us. So yeah, go check that out if you want to hear some thoughts. So let's jump into Xboxes showing at TGS. This was another interesting one. In the same way that Valve really showing up for TGS is interesting, Xbox is too, right? Xbox historically has struggled to enter the Japanese market, and we know that this generation has been, I believe, their most successful in Japan so far.
Oh yeah, it's got to be, right?
Yeah, you would think. And I think they came correct this time around, right? It was a pretty Japanese-centric show. Quite a few announcements. Most of it was updates on old games coming to Game Pass, but I think that they were definitely like big attractive titles, and a lot
of them were games coming to Xbox that were traditionally like PlayStation staples that had never come to Xbox before, and continuing the trend that we had with Persona 5 and other Persona games, in fact.
Yeah,
coming
absolutely.
over. We had other ones like Blaze Blue and Danganronpa V3, those kind of things coming in.
Yeah. So we'll get in some of these announcements. Again, most of them are not super, super deep, so I don't think we'll talk about them too long, but definitely cool things to touch on. One of the big anchors was that Assassin's Creed Odyssey has come to Xbox Game Pass. It's available now. This is a big one, right? Obviously, this game was really popular a couple years back. That's a big get for Game Pass. This is a game I really wanted to try, and I just kept talking myself out of it because I'm like,
why? It's really good.
Well, because I was an Assassin's Creed fan back in the day, right? I played the Ezio trilogy to completion. I booted up Assassin's Creed 3. I didn't like that. I bounced off of it. I played Black Flag. And I just kind of feel like I've gotten, like, I get it, the Assassin's Creed franchise doesn't appeal to me anymore because I feel like it's so wrapped up in all these trappings that are not really useful. Like, I even way back in the day, like, I wrote a very long opinion piece for the first website I ever worked for about why Assassin's Creed needed to ditch the modern day stuff and be like, fuck off with the Animus, fuck off with Desmond, we don't need Kristen Bell and all this modern day, I love Kristen Bell, but all this modern day nonsense was always the most boring part of the game, and it just served to break up the action.
It's like gone.
No, it's not. They replaced it with a first-person walking simulator, which is somehow just as boring.
There is some stuff, yeah, but the majority of the action is in like the past. But I do think it really works as a franchise now for their new thing, where it's going to be like an all-in-one game, and I can use this like modern day like computer menu, and I can then choose where I want to go back. That as a setting,
I guess,
really works in terms of like a live service thing.
I guess it's just like, I don't know, dude. Like I don't care about any of that shit anymore, right? Because they've proven to me over the course of the 4 or 5 or 6 Assassin's Creed games that I've played that it doesn't matter. That the modern framing device doesn't matter. It's like, there was this whole conversation back in the day about how it was like, oh, like, we're going to have these games set in the past, and then there's going to be one in the future, and you're going to do this and that. And like, none of that ever came to fruition. And now it's just this whack framing device that's just shoved on every one of these games. And I'm just like, I'm not interested in it. I'm really not. And like, I know that, what was the one before Odyssey? Origins was like a major shift in gameplay and design.
It is more RPG.
And that really appeals to me. And like, Odyssey was the one where I'm like, I think I want to get it. I think I want to try it. I think I want to jump back in.
There's a woman for the first time. Cassandra's badass. I love her.
And I
was going around sleeping with people's wives.
And she's
awesome.
fucking
loved it.
They're in the she's Wonder Woman. They're in the Mediterranean. She's got a badass shield. She's awesome. That was the stuff.
On a ship, go to all of the Greek islands. It's a great game.
Those were the things where I'm like, maybe this is the time. Maybe it's time to jump back in. But like, I've done that to myself before, where I'm like, I don't really think I care about this anymore, but I'm gonna buy it and try it, and then I don't like it, and it was just like, it was easy to not do. What?
I do that with Pokemon.
You do it every time, right? And like, I did that with Monster Hunter. Like, I'd done that enough recently where I'm like, I don't know. Do I need to go back to Assassin's Creed? And I'm like, I don't think so. But now I'm like, well, Game Pass, I could.
I feel like if you play this before Resident Evil 2, someone's gonna murder you.
Someone. That's true. Although that someone also asked me to play this game. So who's to say?
Okay. So that someone, Asobi, needs to decide which game he would prefer.
He wants me to play all these games. He wants me to play Elden Ring. He wants me to play Odyssey. He wants me to play Resident Evil. You know, your boy's got limited time.
You got to play RE2 Remake. I really want to play that with you.
RE2 we're going to do for content. So that's fine. I'll get that done. We'll play that together. I'll get through it on camera. It'll be all right.
Let's play that this week. Let's get it installed and play it this week.
Done deal. We'll do it. Okay. So then Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony is out on Xbox and Windows PC. That's also available now. It's another like kind of just, again, right, story Japanese franchise. I don't believe had been available on Xbox until now. Or maybe 1 and 2 were.
I don't think it. 1 and 2 were. Yeah. I don't think Danganronpa V3 had been on any console until now. If it was like one of those ones stuck on Vita.
Is that true?
I could be wrong though.
No, it was on PC already because it came to PC in 2016, 2017 was when Danganronpa first came to PC, and they all came. Yeah. So, but first time on Xbox.
Yeah, you're right. 2017 it came.
Okay. 2017. But yeah, so all new on Xbox, which is cool. again, right? I think just like speaking to the Japanese market of like, hey, like we know these are games that appeal to you. Like we're bringing them to Xbox. They're on Game Pass, right? Like trying to show, I think, the Japanese market that it's like, hey, Xbox maybe has not historically been a landing spot for these games, but they're here now. And I think that's been
agreed. And
they've been doing that for years.
They've been doing it for years, but this year seems to be the big time. Like pulling out the big guns. Persona was a huge win for them, and I think stuff like Danganronpa only adds to that, along with some of the other games that they announced. But it makes sense because Phil Spencer opened up the presentation talking about how more people than ever are coming to Xbox. Over 50% of people buying an Xbox in Japan or even the Asian market are new to Xbox. They never had one before. And he attributed much of that success, more than 50%, to the fact that Series S is really popular there. And I want to touch on that as like a strategy. It really feels like them having the two SKUs and the lower price one for like $250, that like low like cost of entry with Game Pass.
250, that's pounds, right? I believe it's $300 in the States.
Oh, okay, 250 pounds, but like, and
it's right in that range. Right, that's a great deal.
And the fact that this week it's cheaper than a Switch, right? And he reiterated this week that there's no intent to raise prices at this point to follow PlayStation's lead, which was just another nail in like Jim Ryan's back.
That is such a like the. I like Phil Spencer generally, right? Like I'm not one to lionize corporate folks, right? I try to avoid getting too much in the fan club, but I like the guy. I think it's so funny how much people were like patting Xbox on the back for this. It's like, oh yeah, one of the 3 most successful companies in the world, Xbox, isn't going to raise their prices. What heroes, like what absolute paragons of virtue, Xbox, that they wouldn't do this to you. And those greedy Sony boys would. Oh, of course. It's like, man, Phil Spencer is just like, oh, I would never do that to gamers. I would never do that. It's just so funny.
Yeah, I do think
it's very funny. Like it's obviously transparent what's happening, right? I say that with no shade towards anyone involved. It's just fucking funny to see them just like
you wouldn't even mention it if it was. He was asked a question on CNBC, so it wasn't just like out of nowhere. He's just like, oh yeah,
he's not just hitting Sony with drive-bys. This feels like
the question.
This feels like a full circle moment for Xbox of the whole like, yeah, PlayStation, you remember that cute little fucking video you put out about sharing games? What's up? Like,
yeah. Oh my god, yeah. But I want to touch on the fact that what do you make of that strategy? It really feels like we're seeing it pay off for them now. 2 years into this generation, obviously more than 50% of their sales. They haven't really had supply constraints with that model with the Series S. It seems to be that one's pretty in easy supply, likely due to the fact that there's you don't need such a high yield on the GPU because you can just use the ones that didn't pass for Series X, chuck them in the Series S. It's no problem because it's a lower clock speed, lower teraflops, that kind of thing. So
I think it's interesting, and I think the first thing I thought when I heard this from Phil was like, I wonder if this was their intent. Like, I wonder if they made the Series S for markets like Japan. Because, like, we were talking about this on the Steam Deck podcast where, like, 2 weeks ago when we were talking about when Valve put out the Steam Deck booklet that was, like, specifically aimed at the Japanese market and being like, here's what Steam is, right? Like, we exist, And it's like, oh, yeah, like, I never really thought about the fact that, like, PC gaming, probably not a big thing in Japan, right? Like, we know that, and I say we know, this is what I've been told, right, is that Japanese gaming is more handheld-centric, right? It's more something that you do while you're traveling or you're at a cafe with friends or what, right? There, it's like it's less like I'm at home sitting in my gamer fucking space on a PC or a console. Not to say that doesn't exist, but it's less centric, right? So, like, with that in mind, if you don't have a big PC culture, if you don't have a huge home console culture, do you care as much about 4K? Right? Like, if you're playing all your games on a handheld, like, you're used to lower resolution? Like, is that an influence there? Like, I don't know. Are you playing less of the like insanely large multiplayer games that eat up hard drive space, so you don't care as much about the fact that there's not as much native storage, and like you install Assassin's Creed and you play it and you're done and you move on, right? Like it makes you think, like, was the Xbox Series S made with that in mind? Because like my understanding is that in Western markets the demand is totally the inverse, right? Where like you're
in
not
the UK, I think Phil said it's around 50-50.
really interesting. Okay.
It
Yeah.
seems to me that's the split, but Asia is more towards Series S than
Which
X.
makes sense, right? It's odd.
I feel like a lot of people see the Xbox, at least here, as like the second console. You buy the PlayStation, and the Xbox is just like, well, I'll pick it up, I'll dabble, I'll try out Forza, I'll get Game Pass, I'll see what it's like. I did that with my Xbox One S. I was firmly in camp PlayStation, and I picked up an Xbox One to experience Game Pass. And I was so glad I did that it basically became my primary console this generation. I picked that one up before I picked up a PlayStation. And I wonder if that's what's happening here, because it's like, oh, I've got a PS5 anyway. I'll pick up an Xbox because I want to play these games, and I can get them with Game Passes. Do I buy all of the Persona games again on PlayStation at $70 a pop, or do I pick up one of these consoles with Game Pass and I just play them there? I really think it's part of the reason why Jim Ryan is doing that all-out assault about Call of Duty, which we'll talk about in next week's episode. He knows that Game Pass is such a strong pull for Microsoft.
Yeah, it's an incredible value prop. And I think when you think about it in the context of like the Persona thing, right? Like if you were like, oh, am I going to buy all three of these games? It's like a new $60, maybe $70, probably $60 game.
Oh, they are 70.
They are all three?
That they are 70.
Wow.
Well, I know Persona 5 is 70. I would imagine they'll do the same with 4.
Yeah, I guess they haven't released information about those yet. And it's 70 on all platforms?
I don't know about pricing on Xbox, because who cares? Because we're gonna get it with Game Pass.
Well, point being, say they're all $70 for the sake of argument. You're spending almost the same amount of money to just buy an Xbox Series S.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting.
And like those games, it doesn't really matter if it's in like 4K and like stupidly high frame rate and this, that, and the other, because it's just like it's Persona.
It's not that kind of game, right? Like that's not.
Yeah.
It's slow, right? It's about the style.
Yeah, same with something like Danganronpa. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't need to run at 60 FPS, or 4K. Yeah, it's interesting. I think I'm surprised by it. To answer your question, I'm surprised that the Series S has been as compelling an argument to people as it is. And maybe it's just the way I think about investing in things, right? Like to me, the value prop of it always seemed dubious, right? Because it's like, I know how I play games and how many games I play and everything. And it was like, why would I buy an inferior version of this console that's not that much cheaper and blah, 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 blah. But like, if I was in a different financial situation, if I was younger or whatever, right? If I didn't have a nicer TV, like, yeah, those are all things that I probably would think about a little bit differently.
Yeah. So. I mean, it's in the UK, it's now half the price of a PS5. So it's like a big price differentiator.
Yeah.
I'm on Amazon. I can pick up a Series S for 240 quid. It'll be here tomorrow. Or I can buy a PlayStation for 479. Like if I'm making the choice,
well, shit,
and I'm not bothered about Sony's games because I want to play these JRPGs that are coming to Xbox Game Pass anyway. You're gonna make that choice.
Well, especially when you think about, you also make the point. I could order this. I just pulled it up. I can order it right now for $300 and it'll arrive on Monday, or Tuesday, which is pretty good. I can't get a PS5, right? Like, let me see. Can I order a PS5 on Amazon right now? I don't think so.
You definitely can, though.
Let's find out. I can request an invitation.
Yeah.
To order one.
It's a real problem.
So, yeah, it's interesting because I maybe that is part of it too, right? Of like, well, I'll buy it now. Maybe I'll upgrade later if I want one. I'll do this. I'll do that. Whatever. Or I want a PS5, but I can't get one right now. I'll buy this in the meantime. Like. It's interesting. It's interesting. I think ultimately it was a very good idea. and not one that I thought made a ton of sense. But I
No,
think
I didn't either. Yeah, I was like, oh, really? No DVD, like no disk drive, and no like a small amount of storage, and it only really targets 1080p.
yeah, it's
So
like
when
really,
everyone's
it's like
moving to
who is this
4K.
for? And it's like actually apparently a lot of people. So
It's for everyone, yeah. Because like it makes sense because people are buying Switches and putting them into 4K TVs and playing 720p games on the screen, and it doesn't really matter. Like I'm playing Splatoon on my 4K display, and I don't give a shit what it looks like because the game's fun.
yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of people do feel that way, right? Where they don't really care about resolution and stuff like that. Think about how many people own shitty TVs, right? And it's just like, oh, whatever, right? Like, so many people.
Well, space is constrained in Japan and a lot of like cities and places.
Yeah,
Like,
do you have like a
do they
60-inch
have?
TV
Do
on
you
your
have
wall
like a
like I do?
huge? Yeah. Do you have like 65-inch TV, or is it just like a little 40-inch thing?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's like, do you have a Samsung like fucking QLED or an LG OLED or whatever? Like are you investing in that way or no? Like, and if you're not even getting the max you can get out of those consoles. So like, do you even need a Series X in that scenario? I don't know. So clearly a good idea. So a couple more things here. We got a look at the newest hero coming to Overwatch 2. Her name is Kiriko, and she's going to be there at launch of Overwatch 2. She is a support class character. She lore-wise has connections to Genji, and oh boy, I forget the other guy's name. Hold on, I'll think about it. It'll come up. Hanzo, right? Yeah, I think Hanzo.
Yeah.
The bow and arrow guy. It took me a minute. It's been a minute. I've been out of my Overwatch bag for a while. But they showed off a bit of her gameplay, right? They showed off like all of her kind of like healing kits. She can teleport through walls, which is really cool. She has like this special ability that she can use to like basically cancel out somebody else's special, it looks like, and like can also use it to like help her team like aggressively run at people and like engage and get like auto healing and stuff. It looks pretty interesting. I'm in such a weird spot with Overwatch. I want to play Overwatch 2, but I feel so weird about Activision Blizzard and everything, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna jump back into it in October, but
I mean, I think I'll probably check it out. It's free. It's free to play.
I do like that.
You know, I'm Bobby Kotick's gonna fuck off soon, hopefully. So
Yeah.
and it's tough, right? Because yeah, the upper management is toxic and horrible, but a lot of people put a lot of work into it, and I think they want people to play their game.
Yeah, and it's like that's such a tough line to dance, right? Because it's like, it's also free to play, right? So it's like, am I like how much am I moving the needle if I try it, right? And I don't spend money on it, like, whatever. So it's like, I don't know, but I'm sure I'll kick the tires on it. I was a big fan of the original Overwatch, and I've heard good things about the beta, so I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. So then another classic Japanese franchise coming to Xbox for the first time, Ni no Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch Remastered, is now available over on Xbox. Of course, this is the team. It was level 5.
Ghibli, right?
Well, it was level 5, and they collaborated with Studio Ghibli. Yeah. And then there's also the sequel, which is Ni no Kuni 2: Revenant Kingdom, is apparently coming to Xbox in 2023. It's also available on PC. So, this is one of those ones where, like, I think you've either played this franchise or you've heard of this franchise, or maybe you haven't, but it's a great, it's a storied, beloved JRPG franchise that, is now going to be available to a whole new class of players, right, over on Xbox. So, definitely
Yeah,
cool.
you definitely haven't played it if you only have had an Xbox throughout your life, which is what my partner is. So you won't have picked it up. So
Yeah.
it's nice. I'm glad these games are coming. I know there's another one, Blaze Blue, that we haven't got on our list, and that's coming as well. That was a PlayStation only game. It's good to see these exclusive lines erode slowly, and have more games accessible to more people, which I think is only a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's Guilty Gear Strive is also on that list, right? Like that's another one that's like, like very, very, very heavily associated with PlayStation, I think. And, again, making the jump to Xbox is a big thing for, the folks who I think either, like you said, right, if you're an Xbox person and you've just never been exposed to these franchises because you've never had access to the PlayStation side of the fence, but also it creates that need where you're like, well, like, maybe I was always a PlayStation person because I like JRPGs and I like this, and I wouldn't pick up an Xbox because they didn't have them, and now that's an option for you, right? And like, if you aren't somebody who cares about Sony's exclusives, they're making it easier and easier for you to be like, well, maybe I don't need one then, right? Like if you don't, need the Horizons and the God of Wars of the world and those kinds of games, right? Like,
yeah. See, I was thinking Sony don't really have an exclusive JRPG at the moment, do they?
not right now. I mean, that's the thing. A lot of them are coming other places now, right? Like Persona 5, right? Was a very
first party. Like, I feel like that's a good argument for them to like gobble up Square, which I know is one of the rumors.
Yeah,
because they haven't got anything in that.
No, all of their exclusive JRPGs were exclusive based on the fact that they had good relationships with Japanese developers that didn't have relationships with Xbox, right?
And
it's
that
like,
seems to be around. Like Crisis Core is coming to Xbox day
right?
and date.
Yeah, and it's the thing. It's like any game. Like if you look at last generation, right? Japanese exclusive, like PlayStation exclusive games that came from Japan were usually because, well, this game's too powerful to run on Switch, and we don't put these games on Xbox, right? So like they were PlayStation exclusive. And of course, there's like games where like Sony actually had a hand in publishing them and all that kind of stuff. Sure. But I think the ones that weren't that, where they're just kind of de facto exclusives, that was why. And now you're seeing Xbox go out and roll out the welcome wagon and try to get these, these brands on board on Xbox. And like we said, right, one of those big ones is Persona 5 Royal. We got a new trailer for it. It's coming October 21st, which is so fucked up to me that it comes out the day before my wedding because I am not going to get to play this game for quite some time. But
yeah, I know. We'll be arranging a game club around it, so don't worry, P. You'll get to play it. We'll wait for you.
We're gonna have to have a whole conversation about
the game
that.
club end of November.
Yeah, I think that's gonna have to be like an extra thing. I don't think we can put it on a like our normal podcast. It's gonna have to just be a thing.
Yeah.
Steve, can I pitch something to you?
Sure.
I need you to Google this for me right now. Is there a Persona podcast called Take Your Time? Because if not, that's what we're gonna call it. I need you to lock it down right away.
Yes, there is.
Fuck!
There is, yeah.
God damn it! All right.
It's had 50 episodes.
Hold on. I can't hear you. I was so upset. I pulled out my headset. What happened?
I said it's had 50 episodes, so I don't think we can still.
Okay, they got us. They got us beat on that one. All right, we'll have to come up with something fresh. But obviously, this is a big deal, right? Persona 5, one of my, I'll say Persona 5 Royal specifically, one of my favorite games of all time, and of course, a beloved franchise now. Both here and around the world. So I'm super excited to get back to this world. I've been wanting to replay it ever since I finished it, and I've had enough space, I think, from it now between it being 2 years ago and the fact that it's coming to new platforms. There's this reason for us to get back into it rather than just playing it to play it, right? Those are all things that I'm stoked about.
Yeah. Continues your year of old games, so that's fine.
Yeah, it's great. I'm loving playing old games. They're great. And you actually have to finish it now. So
I'm curious what your game of the year is going to be. Is it Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on Steam Deck?
Tony Hawk's Underground on Steam Deck, game of the year. Yeah. I don't know if you're familiar with the YouTuber Donkey, but he does a bit every year where he does his game of the year, and every year he names Super Mario Brothers 2 his game of the year, and he's like, once they put out a better game than Super Mario Brothers 2, then that's when we'll talk about it. But until then, yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, game of the year, a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, it is.
Also, I think it's truly hilarious, Steve, how you now on multiple times on content, right? You said this to me on the stream the other day, like, oh yeah, of course you're busy. You're playing all these old games. I bet you I played more and completed more new games than you and also played old games.
We'll see. Vampire Survivors, Pete, which I'll talk about on the Steam Deck podcast or next week's FlipScreen, wherever it fits, is one of my games of the year, and you need to play it. And if you don't buy it for yourself, I'm going to buy it for you because it's $3 and it's one of the best games I've played.
Go ahead, buy it for me. Let's do it. I'll play it on Steam Deck. I'll play it this week and we can talk about it if you want. Buy it for me.
It's so fucking good. It's the best roguelike I think I've ever played.
Wow. That's high praise. Hades exists. You're saying it's better than Hades?
I think it is.
Holy shit. Okay, all right. What a hot take. Hey, you're just sneaking that in. Sneaking that in an hour and 34 minutes into this episode, by the way.
Yeah. It's great. I haven't stopped playing it. McCullough's like, are you playing that shitty game again? I'm like, I know it looks like it's a potato game and you can see the grass tiles. But it's so good. You need to play it.
You know, Steve, these spoiled Gen Z kids, oh, this shitty looking game. Back in my day when we had to play on the fucking Game Boy Color, all right?
Pete, they said that, and then they booted up the Xbox and played Minecraft, so don't, you can.
These fucking Gen Z kids. It's 3D. These voxels. Like, come on. These Gen Zers, Steve. Jesus. Yeah, I'm really excited to get back into that game. I really am.
What about this game? What about Deathloop?
What about Deathloop, Steve? Oh, yeah, I am, okay? Because Deathloop, of course, is now coming home to Xbox is what Phil said, and I was like, all right, brother. All right, you're out here just throwing daggers at PlayStation. You're like, yo, fuck you, Jim Ryan. Meet me in the streets, okay? Uncle Phil's ready to throw down. But, God bless him, all right? September 20th, right around the corner, literally 2 days from now. On Game Pass. There's the Golden Loop update. What's the deal with that again? I don't remember the beats on that.
New weapons, new enemies, new upgrades. There's a brand new extended ending. There's some cross-platform matchmaking with PlayStation and Xbox and PC. So big old update. I really want to see what they've changed in the ending because I was not a massive fan of the ending. So I think I might do another run on it.
I feel like I'm in the perfect position now because I played that game at launch a lot. Like I think I put 20-ish hours into it, enough to be like, I love this game. I love its systems. It's fantastic. I'm gonna finish it later. When I got distracted by whatever, I think it was Metroid. And now I feel like I'm being rewarded because I can go back and finish it. Everything I learned about the game still applies, right? So I can just do the stuff I know how to do already right away, catch up to where I was probably very shortly because I just know the tricks, and then I can benefit from all these updates. Play the definitive edition. So I'm excited to roll credits on this one. I've been thinking about restarting it. Yeah, 100%. I'm going to beat it.
Yeah, but where are you going to play it on Xbox or PlayStation?
No, yeah, I'm going to play it on Xbox. Why not?
Yeah, I'm interested to see. I liked the DualSense features on this game, where it jammed your controller with something.
That's true. I did like that. I'll try it. We'll see what happens, right? Maybe I'll switch back. Whatever. Doesn't matter. I own it.
I kind of want you to play on Xbox so I can just jump in and fuck with you and just be like, Juliana has arrived, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm coming after you.
It's cross-platform. You can probably do it either way.
I don't have PlayStation Plus at the moment. I do have Game Pass Ultimate, so I can jump in on that.
There you go. All right, well then I'll play it on Xbox. You can fuck with me if you want. I would love to shoot you in the face if you try to. You show up and mess with me. And I'm just like, damn, bam, you're done, baby. That's the most satisfying thing in that game when a Juliana attacks you and you beat their ass and then get to take.
It is until you're just about to finish a level and you're like, oh, for fuck's sake. So now I've got to go kill her and then find the thing to unlock the doors because the signal's jammed and I can't get out, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
Dude, the last time
close to the fucking door.
One of the last times I played that happened to me. I was literally at the door and the siren went off. I was like, son of a fucking
It's so frustrating
bitch.
when you've got a fixed time to play and you're just like, yeah, I can finish this level, I can do this, and then I'll carry on later, dinner's about to be ready or something, and then she shows up and you've got to go shoot her in the face.
But I will say, some of the most satisfying moments in that game to me were those. Like, that happened. I was like, fuck, I got to backtrack. I have all this stuff I don't want to lose. Like, it creates a real tension, right? Of like, I don't want to waste this run, you know? And like, I remember the one I did last time. I forget which one it is, but it's the guy who's on the beach and there's that section where there's like all the landmine traps that you have to like sneak around and everything. And if you step on him, like he gets, I can't remember his name. But I just literally went back to that section and hid, and she was trying to find me, and then I was like, now you're stuck in all the traps, motherfucker. And I was just sniping her from a corner up top, and I was just like, ha ha, like, you can't get me now. It was awesome. So much fun. That game rules, dude. Can't wait.
Yeah, it was one of my favorites of last year.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back to it. All right, so we got a couple more things here, Steve. We're gonna get through them, or are we ready? We're gonna wrap it here.
Yeah, we could quickly get through. Capcom had basically nothing, but they're doing a Resident Evil showcase next month. They gave it like a look at Village, but the biggest thing I think from there was Exoprimal actually has a story, which I couldn't believe.
It's so weird. Because why isn't it just Dino Crisis? Why did you make a whole other second game about fighting dinosaurs? You already have one.
Like I think it's just the sheer volume of dinosaurs. It looks like a tech demo that went wrong.
The opening scene of all of them just falling off that fucking building and like hitting the ground is incredible.
I love the fact that she says like, "Oh, they're still puking dinosaurs all over the planet or something," and I'm just like, "Why is this? This is so goofy. It's stupid.
So fucking weird."
It reminds me of like Capcom do these games every now and again. Do you remember the one? It was I can't remember the name of it. The zombie game set in the shopping mall.
Dead Rising.
Dead Rising. It's like that. It reminds me of that kind of story.
It's like horde mode, but just a whole game.
And they know it's nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got like Anthem style mech suits.
Yeah, they're like, we gotta get in our exo fighters, and it's just like, this is so fucking wacky, dude. I gotta tell you though, the more I see this game, the more I want to play it. Because I'm like, this is...
I really want to play this game.
It's fucking hot nonsense. Like, this kind of shit, right? This kind of game is why I love video games and why I love comic books. Of, like, these are the mediums where this shit gets made. Where someone's like, okay, I got an idea. You're in a fucking weird Iron Man suit. You have giant anime swords. And you fight just... millions of dinosaurs. So many dinosaurs that they're just falling out of the sky like it's a fucking tech demo. And somebody was like, you know what? Yes. Yes.
Yeah, let's make it. Let's do it.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful medium. It's a beautiful medium, and I love it. Yeah, I'm definitely want to play this game. It looks like so much fun. It really does. It looks awful, but it also looks incredible. Yeah, and then the other things on the side of that, Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak title update 2 is coming 29th of September, right around the corner. Like we said, the RE Village has, or Resident Evil has the showcase next month. We got Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection update. That's got some more footage. That's coming around the corner. And then we got another look and reveal of some more of the fighters in Street Fighter 6, as well as a little bit more about the plot. So again, if any of those are your bag, there's some new information, but it's not anything super meaty. It's like the kind of stuff that I think would normally constitute like Twitter updates or whatever. So it's just, you know, if you're a big Capcom fan, if you're a big fan of any of those IP, go check it out. But I think aside from that, you didn't miss much, you know? So then on the Konami side of the fence, we got some updates from them, which is interesting. It really feels like Konami's dipping their feet back in games in a pretty big way. I wanted to talk about it this week, but I guess we'll have to save it for next week now. I got my hands on the TMNT Cowabunga collection that just dropped. They're putting out a bunch of new Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. They're doing, the big thing we wanted to touch on is they're doing HD remasters of Suikoden 1 and 2, which is obviously a big deal. Looks pretty good. The original game, specifically Suikoden 2, was known for having a pretty bad translation. And they've actually done like a new translation that seems to like address a lot of those issues. It's coming out everywhere, 2023. So big deal. Again, if you're a Suikoden fan, if you're a JRPG person, obviously a historic JRPG franchise, you know, kind of brought back in a fresh new way for folks. Cool to see Konami doing things.
It is. It's not what I wanted because there was this rumor about the Metal Gear Solid collection, like they're doing like a remake, bringing it into the Metal Gear Solid 5 engine. I would have loved that because I've never really dipped my toes into anything after the PlayStation 1 Metal Gear Solid games. And it would be nice to do that. But I'm really excited for everyone that is getting the Suikoden 1 and 2 remakes because they look great.
I would love to see that from them, the Metal Gear thing, because I'm not a Metal Gear person. I was young when when Solid first came out, and by the time it was contemporary for me, we're like so far into it. It's like I don't know.
Yeah, Twin Snakes is probably when I would have jumped on the GameCube, like the remakes that they did there.
Yeah.
And I feel like bringing those into the Metal Gear Solid 5 engine would be really nice. Hopefully that's true. Hopefully it's a real rumor. It's been going around for a while, same as the new Silent Hill game rumor. So maybe we'll see that at some point, but
Maybe so.
it's not at TGS this year.
Not at TGS this year. And then last up, we had the 505 Games had a little showcase. I got to tell you, Steve, I didn't watch this, so I'm going to leave it to you to which ones we talk about.
Yeah, so I've bolded the ones that I think are most important. They had a bunch of smaller titles. Really, it's just showing games that are imminent. So there's a lot in September and October. Serial Killers is coming to consoles and PCs on the 23rd. Legends coming to Xbox. Gunfire Reborn, which I think is quite a big one, is coming on to Xbox on the 27th of October. But the biggest one by far was Ayuden Chronicles, Rising and 100 Heroes, which is coming on the 26th of January. That's the spiritual successor to Suikoden, which I think is why Suikoden 1 and 2 is having a remaster at all, is because of the success of Ayuden Chronicles. It's by the same director or same writer, as far as I'm aware. So looks great. By far their most popular trailer over on YouTube. If you're interested in Suikoden or Ayuden, then you've probably already seen this because it's really exciting. It's a follow up to Ayuden Chronicles that came out. I think it was earlier this year, or it might be like late last year.
That's cool.
A couple of other ones that I was interested in. Unholy, which is this like survival horror style game. So definitely not your bag, but I thought it looked quite fun, and I'm always interested in a new survival horror entry. It feels like Resident Evil's the only real big player at the moment, because now that we lost Silent Hill, and so I'd like to see
survival horror.
But yeah, like the only real big AAA like survival horror game that I can think of.
Well, unless they're in space, right? Because there's like fucking 35 of those coming out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That is very true. Yeah, we've got
Callisto Protocols like a couple months away.
Protocol, and then
Dead Space coming back.
Dead Space coming the month after. Yeah,
and like 30 other games that also look like those games, but I don't remember the names of.
Yeah, I know, that was ridiculous, wasn't it? That was Jeff's farming sims. Then the last one I want to touch on is Unheard: Voices of Crime, which is really interesting. It's like a mystery game. You play as a detective investigating crimes, but the entire game is done with just audio. So you have to listen. You like put these devices in rooms and things, and you like listen and you like record these conversations and stuff. Seems really interesting. I might check this one out if it comes to Steam Deck or Switch, because it feels like, or even mobile, this feels like the kind of game I'd like to play. It's seems kind of like Her Story, but an audio only version.
Sure.
Really cool concept. I'd not seen anything like it before, so I wanted to touch on that one. That was one of my favorites from their showcase.
Yeah, that's interesting. All three of those are coming in 2023, coming to all or most platforms, so definitely ones to keep your eyes out for. Nothing really grabbing me out of those, I'm not going to lie, but they look cool. You'll have to tell me all about them. Yeah,
like I said, Ayuden was by far the biggest announcement that they had.
That's a cool one.
Especially with the Suikoden announcement that had happened.
Very cool. So like we said, there's a ton of news from TGS. This feels like one of the biggest TGSs that it's ever been, and makes sense. It did take a year off and, came back in full force, so really cool to see.
Yeah, we even caught a bunch of stuff that's coming in the next episode. So come back for GTA 6 leak, Call of Duty next, the Kojima tease. So we'll be talking about that.
Yeah, and that's
Wednesday's episode.
That episode's we're just gonna be out normally, so only a couple days until the follow up. But yeah, we're gonna catch all the fallout from the non-TGS stuff that came out around TGS, so probably mostly about GTA 6. So make sure you write in about that. If there's any other pieces of news that we missed that you want us to comment on, you can write in with that as well, and we'll touch on it in the next week's show, as well as whenever other odds and ends come out between now and then. So great one, I think. Good. It's been a good year for video game announcements. We have a lot to look forward to in the next couple of years, and 2023 feels like it's shaping up to be pretty good, even if half that shit gets delayed. We've got a lot on the docket. So yeah, keep it tuned here, and we'll be there to walk you through all of it and hold your hand as we find these incredible announcements and all of these S tier presentations. Correct, Steve? Every presentation is S tier. In our hearts.
Everything should just be S tier from now. That should be the bit. That everything's S tier.
S tier Tokyo Game Show, everybody. All right. So remember, if you want to get involved, if you want to show your support, if you want to write into the show, if you want to check out some more of our content, you can find links to all of those things over on FlipScreen.games. That's the website. Show your support however you choose to. We're glad that you tuned in and hung out with us, and we hope that you'll tune in for the next episode of the FlipScreen Games podcast. For the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Steve. We'll see you next week, nerds.